So officially, welcome, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we'll be hosting Alex Mehran, CEO and President of Bishop Ranch and Sunset Development, and just have a candid conversation around what's happening with City Center, City Hall, sorry, not City Hall, City Center and City Walk. I do want to give an opportunity for everybody who's joined this Zoom meeting to go roundtable and introduce themselves, and then we'll give Alex the floor. Billy, do you want to start?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. As far as the city goes, I am on the Transportation Advisory Committee, and I also represent San Ramon on the Contra Costa Transportation Authority on the Citizens Advisory Committee. So my interest greatly involves around transit at the moment.
Joyce?
Oh, hi. I'm a retired librarian. I was the manager of the San Ramon Libraries and involved in the building of the Doherty Station Library, and have now been retired. I just figured out yesterday for 15 years. But I live in Sunny Glen in the southern part, a senior community in South San Ramon, and I'm really interested in the City Walk facilities as far as a future place to live.
Cool.
Dave?
Yeah, Dave Owens. I'm chair of the Arts Advisory Committee here in San Ramon. I also serve as a board member on the Arts Foundation.
Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. 40-year San Ramon resident, worked in Bishop Ranch for 20 years, and I have nothing better to do.
Jill, would you introduce yourself? Jill, would you like to introduce yourself, or you're just going to listen in? Either is fine. All right, I think she's just listening in. So with that, Alex, I would love for you to introduce yourself as Alex Mehran a little bit to our audience, and then we'll do a bit of a Q&A and have questions from anybody who's here in the audience as well. So I would love to hear about how long you've lived here in the area, what's been going on with City Center, and what are our future plans for the City Walk.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited that you guys are also involved in what's going on in San Ramon, and we're somewhat insular or insulated in our little Bishop Ranch circle, and it's always amazing to me to interface with people that are part of the broader community and the committees that exist, and really pushing things forward for San Ramon, because one of my central goals is to make Bishop Ranch really the San Ramon's downtown, not just the city center, but the office buildings and the apartment buildings and other things that are to come. I really have always, since I started, I think probably 12 years ago, I've really been focused on trying to make it into one ecosystem, and it's something that's really important to me. So I appreciate all the work that you all do to further that and to make our community great. I was born and raised in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I went to school on the East Coast and worked in New York to start my career. And then my wife and I moved back here in 2009 and moved to Danville, and that's where we live now with our 4 kids. So between Bishop Ranch and the 4 kids, that's pretty much 110% of my output. I also tend to get out and race sailboats in the open ocean, just myself or with one other person, so that's kind of my other passion. When I joined the firm in 2009, we owned 30 office buildings, 4.5 million feet. And at the time, the big focus was sort of getting through the global financial crisis. And we did some amazing leases back then with Bank of the West, Hill Physicians, Pacific Gas and Electric, General Electric, and a bunch of other companies that were growing. And we were able to lock in some low interest rates at the time. We thought those were going to be the lowest interest rates that were around. So we refinanced a bunch of our properties from when they had their original loans, when they were built, all those 30 original buildings. And we took out some cash, and we were getting really excited to get started on City Center. And then AT&T, successor to Pacific Bell. So the two big land sales we had in the 80s were to Chevron and Pacific Bell. And those two land sales were really, they did a bunch for us. They helped us pay off the person that sold us the land, Western Electric. They put a big corporate flag on Bishop Branch, two major corporate flags on Bishop Branch in their own facilities, which really drove it as a great place to move your business. And as people moved out of the city, they decided on Bishop Branch because it had a family behind it. It was the second generation of my dad at that point. That's the third generation. And it was really a crisp, clean, well-branded office park. Bishop Branch Business Park was our name. And so we did those deals, we did the refinancings, and then AT&T, who was a successor to Pac Bell, came and said, we want to sell our building, which is a 2 million square foot building, largest building in California. It was usurped by the Apple campus, which got built after we bought that. So we, for a little bit, owned the biggest office building in California, and then they left 1 million feet of it. So it was super scary because, the whole time I was kind of wondering how I was going to get a leg up in our little business and advance. And then this opportunity came up, and my dad let me take the reins to run the transaction. We bought the building. We then leased the 1 million feet up almost entirely. It's now 95% full. And we built the Roundhouse facility. We opened up the AT&T Conference Center as part of Roundhouse. And importantly to the community, we opened the lake up for walking. And over time, that'll become a really key piece of City Walk with some parking added and some other amenities that'll make it a little more obvious and a little more accessible for people. The more people that are there, the merrier. The more traffic we get there, the less of the hooligan kids I'm going to have that they pushed my little Minimo car into the lake one night, which really bothered me. So the other day we actually had kids riding BMX bikes on the roof of the round building up on top of our office, which that, so this crazy stuff happens. So the more people that we get in there, the better it'll be. And I'm pretty excited about that lake. So we've also made it look much more natural and really fixed the fish ecosystem in there and changed the air conditioning so it no longer works through the lake. We have a normal air conditioning system. There's a bunch of stuff we did there. And that excitement really drove a lot of office leasing, new and exciting stuff. And so actually now, that we're facing the pandemic and potentially, a somewhat catastrophic situation for our office buildings, we're really focused on getting started at City Walk to have that excitement keep going. Obviously, between City Walk and 2600, which is what we call that Pac Bell building, we did manage to build the City Center. It didn't happen in that original 2010 timeframe we had hoped, but we hired Renzo Piano. We had just a massive struggle to figure out what it should be. There's a retail apocalypse was already on us when we started. All our traditional lenders said, don't do it. You should just sell the site to somebody who knows what they're doing in retail, because we'd never built a retail project. But we knew if we sold it to somebody, they would kind of build something that was stucco, single story with a separate parking structure that sort of stood out. And would be somewhat more soft and less bold than what we did, but would be something that would be, not unique. Maybe they could have gotten some of the tenants, but like a slanted door, for instance, or an Equinox, which we were just talking about that you guys go to, Billy and Dave, and Sabina, I know you go there too. And I go there, at least I used to, still a member. Those tenants wouldn't have come to just some stucco single story sort of, cutesy type retail project. And so, post-pandemic, we're reaching, all-time high numbers on traffic, even without the Equinox and movie theater being pumping, which to me is a very good sign. And we're super excited about where the project's going. Probably my biggest fear at the onset of the pandemic was that center. Biggest amount of pain in the financial side was the center, because the office tenants kept paying rent. And then at the end of the pandemic, that's I'm least concerned about that, because it's just, it's open air. People are loving the quality. They might have a little more money in their pocket, and they want to get out and see people in a nice environment. So that's working. The office piece I'm very concerned about. We actually have sold a site to a home developer to tear down 570,000 feet of office space and build 403 homes. That's just north of City Walk in the area known as the North Community Remote Specific Plan. It's our Bishop Branch 6 project, and our tenants have been very understanding about moving out of that project and moving into our bigger Class A buildings that are nicer than that. We kept the rents the same for them. And so while it's always painful to move, I was sort of excited to give them an upgrade, a sort of free upgrade, and that's going along nicely. At the same time, we'd like to start action in City Walk. We have the hotel project, 169 key, new boutique hotel. We've been in contract for what seems like forever on it. Pre-pandemic, we were in contract. We got it entitled and approved, and it's just a very tough time to build a business hotel. And so we talk to them once a month, and I'm hopeful that they'll get going, because I think that's a big amenity for the office tenants. On that note, we have all these nice tenants we brought in over after the GFC. Many of them are margin constrained companies. So back in the 80s, people were margin constrained and they wanted to move all their files and their back office personnel out of San Francisco into Bishop Branch. It made sense. You could drive there. The CEO could drive there and have a meeting. And many people lived out here. So we had a fairly wide catchment area where people were coming from all over the greater East Bay and the North Bay, like Benicia, Martinez. I don't know, do you call Sunol, is that what you call, is that the North Bay? Or is that still the East Bay?
No.
I don't know. Anyway,
Sunol is more of the South Bay, no?
Oh, I'm
I
not
think
thinking of Sunol, I'm thinking of Solano County.
Solano is north.
Yeah, so maybe whatever that is. So, over time, what's happened is with communication and technology and the internet, which obviously existed in 2010, but things like the application we're on now, Zoom, really allow people to be in, Dallas, Texas, or Omaha, Nebraska, or Phoenix, Arizona. And so a lot of those jobs that were moving out of San Francisco into a place that was drivable are now in Texas and other places. Chevron and AT&T are the massive examples of that, but many of our other tenants that are the big box, 200,000 foot tenants are doing that. And now we have to attract the best of the Bay Area, which really is tech and biotech. And so that's why these amenities, like an upscale hotel or city center or great apartments, are really, really important for us branding ourselves as a place that tech should be. And hasn't been historically. We have some great ones. We have SAP, we have Five9. We started a new video game place with striking distance, super cool. He's in, I think, 20,000 feet or 15,000 feet. So not a big box tenant, but a very important one. Lives in Norris Canyon Estates. So, usually when the executives live close by, you can make the deal happen in Bishop Branch. And I hope that all these people that have streamed out here during the pandemic include a lot of those people that can help those decisions get made to move out here. We've tracked a lot of the closing data on who's buying the homes, and in fact, many of them are tech people. I think there's a cool factor in tech, Sabina, that people think it's cooler to live in San Francisco or Marin, and if you're a skinny jeans wearing tech
Hoodies.
successful executive, you may think of yourself being somebody who would live in Santa Cruz rather than compromising and living in a place that maybe makes a little more sense on paper. But I hope that changes. I think it is changing. So we've sold to Joyce's point. We were in contract with a Belmont Senior Housing, which is a really good senior housing provider. They do the kind of rental model rather than the deal where you sell your house and give them all the money and then there's kind of this financial deal they do. This is one of the ones where you just rent the place, and they're great. That's going to be 180 to 200 units. And then just north of there, we're working on our first phase of apartments to get started next year. And I think that'll be super high quality and nice. And then the hotel's on BR3A, just kind of right across from Fieldwork Brewing. So yeah, we're and then we'll start rolling on stuff on 2600, and one of the sites that's really important to us is the one just north of City Center, between the East Wing where GE and SAP are, and City Center, because there's the City Green there, which is this really cool park that I think will really frame City Center well. I think the project south of Bollinger, the senior one, and the other one will really, nice fills there, Billy. I think as you come in, we've done the roses, we fixed up Bollinger a little bit in terms of that south ramp thing that got put in. And then, I think when the buildings start framing, where you get off the freeway and you come in, when there's taller buildings on either side that are on the street, I think you'll really start to get a sense of, all right, this is downtown San Ramon. And when I pass City Hall, I'm moving into, the residential neighborhoods, and it'll become much more defined and better. So in a big rush to get that going, because we're very concerned about office space. And so that's kind of me. That's what's going on at Bishop Ranch. I don't know if I missed anything big, but Sabina, you can tell me if I did.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think you really summarized it and shared it well. So I don't know if you noticed, but we have San Ramon downtown signs now on 680, both coming from the north and the south. So I saw that Dublin had downtown Dublin, and I came to Joe and I'm like, Joe, what is this all about? So I was getting a bit of a FOMO that why didn't we have a downtown sign? We're building a downtown. So we took it to council, we voted on it about a year ago. It took us a year to get those signs up, but now it says downtown San Ramon. So I think we have arrived.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. And, exactly what you talked about, right? We are building this new downtown. One of the demographics I see coming back as we build the city walk and city housing are some of our younger tech folks as well, that have grown up in San Ramon, that love living there, but now they've kind of gone, for the jobs and the experiences. But if we can have the jobs and the places for them here, I certainly see some of them coming back as well. I thought I heard that you also have Wework that was coming to Bishop Ranch. Do you still have that, or?
Yeah, we have an 85,000 foot Wework facility in 2600. 15,000 feet of it just got leased by a cool tech company. Again, the executive lives in the area, but that's a case where they closed down their San Francisco office and they're consolidating here. So we always like, with a lease of that size, we'd like to do a direct deal. This person in particular I know well, and he likes a deal. So he found a deal from, Wework struggled in the pandemic. I think he got a good deal from them. So we'll get him when he has to grow bigger than that.
Yeah.
And to your point, about it's pretty, if you can get a life in San Francisco where you can live in Hayes Valley and walk down to, Phil's and walk to, take your fixed gear bike to your work and then go to the cool beer place. That's cool. And you can do that. Probably doesn't work if you have a kid. Maybe it does. So it gets to be pretty compromised as it's expensive and it gets to be compromised. You can have a pretty cool little beat in San Ramon. If you lived in an apartment, then you're all of a sudden, first of all, you see sort of a pathway in life for yourself to move into a single family house. And, you can save money and you can get that deposit going. You can walk to your beer place or your coffee place. You can walk to your job. It's clean. It's nice. There's no, none of the grittiness of the city. I think it's a pretty good little thing that people could have going. So we're excited to see that emerge too.
Yeah. And we've thoroughly, you can see, enjoyed all the restaurants. Billy was showing his fills. I don't know if it took him 45 minutes or an hour to get that, but that's generally the wait time on weekends. And, we've had Salt and Straw. That's been very popular. LV Steakhouse just opened up and, everybody's been coming there. So you really have, with City Center, what I feel is we've built a lifestyle in San Ramon, which is serving different demographics, as different restaurants and places are coming online. What has been amazing to see during the pandemic is that it worked well for outside dining. I mean, if there was one place which was built for people to socially distance and eat and be out and about, City Center really served that purpose. And one of the things we saw was the farmers market, which completely thrived during the pandemic as well. And you've been very generous by really giving Harb and the farmers market that spot to grow and serve the community. And so we've loved all the restaurants. I've always been curious, how do you curate and bring these restaurants to San Ramon? Kind of, how do you attract them? Is there like a method to it? Do you just go down Hayes Valley and ask all the places to just come down to San Ramon because we want to build a parallel lifestyle here? So we'd be very interested in finding out.
Yeah, so it's the same as the other retail. You have to anchor it. Like we did The Lot and we did Equinox. And so those brands that, the Athletas of the world, Anthropologie's Made Well, when they see those names, they get comfortable and they assign leases. And so that was the Charles story. And I have a guy that works with me called Jeff Dodd, who I think you've met, who really, nursed the relationship with Charles. Charles became very close friends with me and Jeff and my dad. And so we just, and he, there's an authenticity about what we do versus other real estate people. We have the, it might not be the most A location in the entire Bay Area. Like the Ferry Building clearly is a better slanted door location than San Ramon. And
I don't know anymore.
But there's the approach to him, who we are, the connection with Renzo Piano, who's somebody that he knew because he did the initial food service at the Academy of Sciences in not Central Park, in big park.
Golden Gate.
Yeah, Golden Gate Park. Yeah. And so he's into design. So we got that going. The other thing that happened on the food is people kept saying, and I did this too. I'm as much somebody who did this. I wanted there's this sushi place in Danville called Teru that I really like. And you go down the road and you start talking to them about that. Or Giovanni is a great example that everybody in San Ramon loves Giovanni's. And you go and talk to them. But when you're building a restaurant from shell, it's extremely expensive. It's like minimum $4 million to build a whole restaurant with all the equipment and everything. When somebody like the sushi place I like, or Giovanni or whatever, or Essen up in Danville and then Lafayette, typically they go into restaurant space that was a failed restaurant before. So you're starting with, if it's $4 million, you're starting with $3 million of bones, and then you got to renovate it and clean the stuff. And so it was just impossible for us to sign any deals where we were doing, it's not, so having those people, they also tend to be owner operators. So they don't have the capacity to go and take out a huge loan, first of all, to build the second restaurant. They're focused on their one restaurant because they're entrepreneurs and that's their thing and they want to keep that going. Getting them to relocate is hard because of the loans. They'd have to take out all that stuff. And then, they can't have two of them because there's only one person to be in the kitchen and be in the front and all that stuff. So we tended to have to look towards people with restaurant groups. LB Steak is a great one. That's the Left Bank restaurant group. He has an investor base. He has a lender base. He has a construction team. He has a design team. And so he wants to his business is opening up several of these restaurants around the Bay, not like, Cheesecake Factory, where it's a massive company, but they're interested in opening 5 of this brand and 4 of this brand. And there's groups of these people. Slanted Door is one of them. He only has a couple other things, but LB Steak is like that. Mendocino Farms is definitely like that. Mixed is like that. Fieldwork has several tap rooms like ours. So you need to find these companies that are sort of best in class. And then when they see a Charles Font Slanted Door, they say, oh yeah, sure, we'll take a look at that. And Jeff sort of nursed it and knew who they were and found them and signed leases. So there's definitely an art to it. And Jeff's the artist of finding them. And it's a shame that we don't have too many of those local people. We have Gunjan right now, who's great at the social affair, and I'm super proud of her for doing such a good business there. But over time, some restaurants will fail, and those people will fill those restaurants with more local people. So those opportunities will arise.
Yeah. No, I mean, restaurant business is probably one of the most difficult businesses to maintain. And you're right about some of those things. So what should we look forward to? What else is coming up?
Well, I
If
really,
you can share.
yeah, I'm excited about the second floor getting a little more activated. We've struggled with those, incubators up there. There just isn't enough traffic. I thought that the garage there'd be a lot more people that would come out of the garage and walk out on the second floor. People obviously tend to fill up the surface parking first. They're just sort of scared to go into that tunnel. And then when they get in there, I think if you go into Equinox, you pop out at that door right by Equinox. And so, we've opened up the ramen shop. We're about to open up the Curry Up Now Indian food place. And then, across the way, Bamboo Sushi is out of bankruptcy, and I think they're back open. And then we have Sandbox VR, which is a really cool virtual reality company that hopefully people get excited about there. And I think as we fill that out, we'll get more stuff up there, and that'll become more of a circulation area. We have a tenant we're close to signing a lease on in the big ice skating rink. The space people know as the ice skating rink.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
we know it as well, we initially put these white boards up around it, and they looked like those hockey boards, and I think people thought that they were. It was just the storefront was delayed in coming in. So that space was actually supposed to be an Apple store. We built it column free for them, and that didn't really work out for us. I think, the retail business, to the point of our lenders back when we started, it can be a very, very nasty business. And I think that we have two of the heaviest heavyweights. Simon Property Group that owns Stone Ridge Mall to our south, who's the big heavyweight, very aggressive owner, and then less of an aggressive owner, but still a heavyweight. Mace Rich owns Broadway Plaza in Walnut Creek. And many times, I think it's in this case, it's Stone Ridge, they require radius clauses and exclusives that tenants won't go certain places. And I think that my sense is that's what they demanded from Apple and Stone Ridge, and they did a big reno. So I think Apple will probably be happier with us, but we sort of gave up on that, and we're going forward with a very cool tenant I think everybody should be excited about. And then we have some food going. I think it's public that we did a deal with Morigami Udon. Charles has a I think it's I forget what the name nomenclature is on his exclusive, so that we don't open up something similar to him. But the fact that exclusion, he was fine with both Ramen Hiroshi and Morigami Udon, and Hiroshi-san was fine with Morigami Udon. I don't know how all these different types of noodles are so different from each other, but all these guys are like, oh yeah, that's fine. The same customer doesn't want.
That's a different noodle.
How is that possible? To me, I couldn't eat chicken noodle soup and ramen. It's like, I just don't know the difference. I wish I did. But
I think it's between $10 and $40, right?
Right.
Is that the difference?
Yeah, exactly. But these young people
Makes you feel more exclusive paying $40.
They know what the salt and straw is, and they come and find it, or the boba guys, and they know these different noodle types, and they get excited about it. So, that's all I want. So yeah, and some other food. I think we have some other food coming in, and at the end of the year will be an exciting time at City Center for sure. Rob Holiday, I hope we bring back the skating rink. We're working on that right now. So yeah,
that was a lot of fun. I know I bike down and walk down a lot more now, and especially during COVID when we were just walking, it takes me 30 minutes, and it's so strategically placed between my house and City Hall, and then City Center, and then GE Digital. So that is kind of become my nucleus of work, live, play. And hopefully we are building that lifestyle for people. And what has really allowed is as well for us as we're doing city planning, it's made things easier for us as we get these state mandates. We need to build housing. We can continue to protect our hills. We can continue to protect our neighborhoods and build more in downtown. And I know we went through this whole negotiation process, and we came out with a really great 25, 27-year plan where people will start seeing, like you said, opening up the lake where people can start walking. I'm looking forward to the parkway where people can bike and walk and, you know, truly enjoy city center and that whole area of Bishop Ranch, because working there with GE, I've certainly enjoyed the amenities there. You know, I'm walking around the lake and now started noticing more and more people trickling into and discovering the lake as well. So when it all kind of comes together, it's going to be really exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. I let some of the other folks on the call have any, you know, ask any questions.
I'll go if you don't mind, Sabina.
Of course.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. So I've only been in San Ramon for about 4 years. I work for a government agency that will remain nameless, but I've moved all over the country. And when I was being reassigned here to Dublin, you know, one of the reasons we moved to San Ramon was we went online and saw City Center. And I started really digging into San Ramon and I saw an amazing opportunity. And I'm kind of an urbanite, but I have kids, so I'm not going to live in San Francisco with kids. So I greatly value and see what's going on downtown and look forward to, you know, what's more to come. I have a house kind of in the northwest corner of San Ramon, but you know, as my kids get older and hopefully move out someday, you know, I could see myself living in a condo or whatever right there in the core of the city. So absolutely love it. So one question I do have though is, you know, being on the CCTA Citizens Advisory Committee, Randy Iwasaki and now Tim Hale, you know, talk about that, getting those tech companies and companies in the peninsula to move to Contra Costa, because, you know, that's people who live here work there. So do you get involved with CCTA, having those conversations, kind of the collaboration and trying to get those businesses to come to the area?
Yeah. And to be honest with you, a lot of times it just feels like there's too many organizations not doing and you know, not coordinated, and not like, you've got the CCTA stuff, and then there's, you know, there's just a bunch of them, and we're all trying to do the same thing, and it hasn't clicked. Like, it's almost like a business, you know, that doesn't have its market, that doesn't have its product, you know, strategy quite right. You know what I mean? Like, but the frustrating thing is the product's great, you know, so like, it's like you're trying to sell something that's really good, but people aren't getting the message, because I don't know. And so we've spent a lot of time talking about that, and how do you market San Ramon? And I was on a call about it. I forget what it was. I forget what the call was, but maybe it was Terry Keening organized it, I think. But you know, I think we've got to figure out how we pop up on the radar, and how, you know, when you Google San Ramon, that things show up that make it, you know, exciting. You Googled City Center, which probably had the, you know, in that time frame, probably had the latest branding. We were probably all up to speed on all that stuff because we were trying to sell the place. But you really want it to be downtown San Ramon, and that to sell the whole package from, you know, the edge of the Doherty Valley all the way to you know, an office building in the middle of Bishop Ranch. So the transportation piece is a key problem for us. My dad's been a big leader in that for a long time. We do the bus service with CCTA. Randy was very close with him, and you know, we try and do stuff like we had that driverless bus we had, and you know, they work on the 680 innovation stuff on 680. And now we have, I think, you know, one of the big things that was achieved was that continuous toll lane. I forget, does it go from where it goes from like Benicia to
Almost.
Yeah,
it's getting there.
It's getting there. Yeah. So these things are great, but you know, I'm sort of excited too about the fact that maybe companies will allow people to flex their work hours somewhat. It just seems to make sense to me that you could start your day at 6 at home, do an hour and a half of work, have breakfast with your kids, take them to school, and then come to work, you know, at like 9, or go for a workout, come to work at 9, and then, you know, work again from home later. So rather than being on the road exactly during commute hours, I know that most people have to drop kids off at certain times, and but it seems like maybe the day could be rethought rather than just saying, it's hybrid work, you don't come to work today. The hours that you come to work could be different rather than not coming to work at all. So I'm hoping that would help, and we just need to keep pushing with the transportation stuff. But again, my dad sort of led that, and I'm not as up to speed on it. I guess it's so nebulous, how this stuff works. Every time you dig into it, it's like, oh yeah, well, we have to get that approved, and then in this measure, and then we did the try to do the Measure X thing, and that failed twice. But then you got to get the projects funded by the federal government, and it's just like, it's easier for me to stick to my knitting, and he's good with that stuff. So, I don't know that much about it, but it is, the bus thing is key for us. We also run an luxury bus to the city every day that we stopped during the pandemic. I don't know if we'll continue it or not, but people like that. But it was like $350,000 a year to put one bus on the road, and that's for 50 people. And they kicked in, I think, like $6 away or $5 away, and that we got like 100,000 back from that. So we were losing $250,000 a year running this thing, and it's just tough. The stuff, you really need government dollars to be behind it, and they should, because you're moving people around that can't afford to have a car, and these are the people that we need to be in a lot of the jobs that we have that really struggle and have a hard time. It's not the person that owns a $4 million house in Alamo that's having a hard time getting there. We need to get all the rest of the people, particularly at city center. Staffing is an enormous problem right now. So yeah, I appreciate all the work you do on that.
Thank you.
So there are like 7, I believe, agencies throughout the Bay Area that are transportation agencies, and the person who knows about it is the Clipper card. So they're the one who told me, he's like, we know all these agencies and I can help you connect with all of them because they just all do their own thing. I know we're pushing a lot for Valley Link, and as I've talked to people, right, your restaurants, people come from the Central Valley that work, in the service industry. And to bring over those people into San Ramon as well to provide some of those services. At least as a Tri-Valley, we've been pushing for the Valley Links, even though we're not the last mile stop there, but at least it'll bring people close enough where then they can, from BART, we can start solving that last mile problem. I know Dave sits on a number of those committees as well, and he talks about Dave Hudson, our mayor, and talks about that as well. But yeah, but Alex, you guys are building 3 transportation hubs as part of the city walk plan as well, right?
Yeah, and that's something that I sort of identified as an issue, is that the buses now come in and they hit Chevron Park, BR1, BR3, Transit Center, BR7, BR15, BR12, BR8, 2600, Shops of Bishop Branch, and then get back on the freeway. So if you're like the person getting off at the Shops of Bishop Branch, you just get off at Chevron and walk across. You get off at the first stop and walk across, because it's ridiculous. You're not going to sit on the bus all that time. So we just decided that with bikes and scooters and stuff like that, we'll centralize the transportation into 3 higher quality hubs that are amenitized with things that make your wait. They're heated and cooled. There's vending machines. They're clean. Places have bathroom. So, it was like just a move where it's like, stop the madness. Everybody walks a little further, but there's 3 stops and get back on the freeway. So hopefully people adopt that.
I have a question. First of all, I do like walking around the lake. I love that walk.
Great.
Glad it's open. What do you see now in this post-pandemic, hopefully, time as the timeline for the city walk developments and move in, and when will those buildings be built?
I think by 2025, I hope you have the hotel. I hope we have probably 600 or 700 apartment units done, and the seniors will be done, 180 units of senior housing, and yeah, maybe a few more apartments if we can get them done, but that's probably within 4 years. I'd say 600-ish units, 185 seniors, and the hotel. And I think that's kind of what we promised, that we would build it out over 25 years. So 4,500 units. I think every couple of years you deliver another 300, 200, 300, and that's kind of the rollout. We want to keep them really nice. There's 15% affordable, so there'll be a big component for people that don't have as much income to afford it, and some of them will be condominiums too. So I think a lot of people want to own rather than rent, and so I'm thinking about delivering some of those sooner too, because I think the for sale market right now is so good that it makes sense. And I think post-pandemic people will not mind. Elevator served suffered tremendously in the pandemic, but that'll go away, I'm sure. And yeah, so I think we'll probably stick to that 25-year time horizon, but we want to get going on all these various fronts right away to help, spur activity and office interest.
Well, I want to put in a plug for the seniors and for rentals, because I mean, in my situation right now, I have a home, but as I age, and I just turned 76, I don't want to have to worry about maintenance. So I think having the senior housing and as rental is really a good idea, and that you could easily advertise that area for seniors. You've got grocery stores, you've got the library, you've got a pharmacy, you've got restaurants, you've got a theater, you have basically everything seniors need without even using their cars. And so it would be, to me, it would be a no-brainer to advertise that area for senior housing. I think it's a great location. It's perfect.
Yeah, based on the price they're paying us for like 2 acres of land, I think the demand is quite high. So yeah, we agree. And there's less parking. And my dad's always said that the senior community is like a second police force. They're not going to put up with any BS. So we're all in favor of it. And once that one's leased up, we'll probably do another one.
Cool. Any way to get on the list?
I'm sure they'll be, once they get going, I'm sure they'll have that. Yeah, we'll make sure you know about it.
Dave, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
No, so I do have to run here in a second, but so I would just say kind of what Billy said. I moved here 2016. Before I was taking all my money to places like Danville and Dublin. So I think it's great that now my money now goes to San Ramon. Could you maybe give some insight? I know every transaction is probably different, but you have stuff like Curry Up Now, LB Steak. It took like maybe they were announced and it took maybe like 2 years. But then you have stuff maybe like Phil's that's announced and went up very quickly. I'm sure some of this is negotiations and corporate, but I'm just curious why maybe some stuff takes so long and then some stuff is up quickly.
Well, like a Phil's or a Starbucks or a World Wraps, first of all, the build out is a little bit, particularly for Phil's, the build out's a little less than a full restaurant.
Sure.
But also Phil's is putting up Phil's locations all over the place, right? So they have a team that's, anticipated what it's going to cost, and it's all sorted out. All the restaurants, it's a one-off deal for them, and they want to build a very special restaurant. They want to improve their mousetrap from the last one they built, and they price it out, and it comes in, and it's like, vastly over budget. They have to value engineer, and then they come to us, and they renegotiate it, and then when the pandemic hit, everybody sort of stopped. And so I think with those restaurants that are more like the LB Steaks or Slanted Doors or, Curry Up Now is one that stopped in the, I'm not, the construction was a little funny on that one. I'm not sure. It was very like, it was in fits and starts, and I don't know what happened, but it's rolling now. So different stuff, but the people like a Mendocino Farms, they're putting up so many of these things that they're rolling, and they sort of know the cost of waiting. And they sort of want to execute. They've got amazing marketing. They go out there, and then like Mendocino Farms just hit the ground completely at top speed, and have just kept going. Now they're doing peak volumes now. There's a huge number in May. It was crazy. The pickup is so good. They just have everything down. Whereas I think a smaller place, which offers a lot more, it's like an LB steak offers a lot of value, but it's more of a one-off custom deal. So it just takes a little longer, and there's bumps in the road that involve concessions on our part too. So we get it done though.
Thank you. I think we're just approaching time. So I just wanted to say thank you, Alex, for being generous with your time. Thank you for really being such an amazing partner and building a space for our residents, which has truly become a community gathering place. We all really enjoy that and appreciate it. Anything else you want to share before you leave us, or?
Yeah, well, again, I just appreciate you guys so much. San Ramon wouldn't be, what it is without such a great city, and on a sort of small scale level, we have interactions with the city, many times a day, pulling permits, working on every kind of different thing. And so it's been, obviously you're tough on us and treat us like anybody else, but I think that treatment is very good across the board for everybody. And it's just such a well-oiled machine, and it just allows us to, it's really a pro-business environment in California, which is rare, and we just genuinely appreciate it. And I think the community's involvement in that just makes the biggest difference. So you guys are volunteering your time, and I really appreciate it. And I guess I'm interested a little bit in where Mike worked. I don't know if you could share that. He's still with us.
Yeah, I worked at as we called it at the time, Pathetic Bell. I was moved into the 2600 building, East Wing, early 1985, and watched the rest of the building get built. Worked there for 18 years.
Cool. Have you been back?
Have I been back to the 2600 building? No, not since 1998.
Oh, well, we're opening the restaurant back up soon here, so come down and check it out.
Yeah, I will do that.
It was funny, or not funny, but what's the name of the cartoonist that was in there?
Oh, Scott Adams. Yeah, I used to sit near him. Gilbert.
Yeah, so Scott Adams did the what was it called? The
Gilbert.
And I put this whole retrospective of Dilbert, and Scott Adams is kind of hard to deal with, so we actually had to deal with like a broker who licenses the cartoons. We did this whole retrospective of Dilbert because Dilbert was always complaining about the office and the cubicle and all this stuff, right? And so I spent a bunch of money before the pandemic putting this whole wall up of Scott Adams and Dilbert, and it turns out the guy's like a horrible racist or something, and so we had to like tear the whole thing off. It was like this big. There's this big waste of, I was excited about it, and I had no idea. So, but glad we caught that early and got it.
Yeah, he spent a lot of years in the South Wing.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's an anecdote, but it seemed like it was a good place to work. Cool company, and they had the mail robot and all kinds of cool technologies in the building, but it's a little different now. Come check it out.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'm looking forward to coming back to 2600 soon. GE hasn't announced yet when they're opening up, but we're all itching to at least see each other. Social hour, happy hour just doesn't happen on Zoom. Yeah. We've tried. So you might be surprised how quickly we're just heading back.
Well, the other day we were doing our cash flow projections, and I marked you guys down for renewal in 2600, so it better come true. The other one I know you're out of, but
yeah. So yeah, not in my court, but I'm looking forward to coming back in the restaurants, and just meeting colleagues and working together again as well. So
thanks for having me again. Thanks for everything you do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Everybody have a wonderful Saturday, and good to see you all.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Sabina.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.